phone. It's too far.
Oh, too far, huh? Sorry, guys. All right, here we go. Welcome to Calling The Audible, as Eagle is completely discombobulated right now with his side stuff over here. But we are in the shipping container as we approach land, which will be the playoffs, as we are now wrapping up. What week, Peeze?
I don't know. You're
Exactly.
terrible at it.
I've lost track, man.
Well, 2 weeks ago, it was last week, where you're like, it's week 9. I was like, no, it's not possible. We've played 6 games. We've had a bye. It's week 7 because 6 plus 1 is 7.
I always confuse like Sundays being the start date, right, of each
Yeah.
week. I'm so used to it, but it's Thursday the start date. So anyway.
But how'd you get 2 weeks in advance?
I don't know, man. That's what it is. Anyway, let's dive into Division E.
Before we do that,
Yes, Eagle.
Before we do that, I just want to let everyone know I have to make you guys a little bit darker this week. So if Mo looks a little bit more like tanned, it's not his fault. It's
No.
Peeze's fault for
My
being
wardrobe
white, as
choice.
white as it possibly gets.
All
yeah,
right.
I decided I wanted to look like a young Colonel Sanders. That's all.
Or a salesperson going door to door.
Can you
selling,
tell us what's in the
T-Fel
magical
masks.
spices?
No, but I can sell you a vacuum. No problem.
All right, let's dive into Division E as we are heating up with this conference, or with these two divisions in this conference and how it's played out. And a team that's done very well for themselves, Peeze, in the last few weeks is Menace to Sobriety. They're on a hot streak of late and how they have won with their defense. And they took out the Rainmakers earlier on the week, I believe it was, I'm losing track here, on Monday night.
Week 8.
Week 8. They're now 4-3. They're in the eye of the race. I think they are going to the playoffs, but the rise of Menace to Sobriety has definitely been a surprise for all of us.
Yeah, so their last 3 wins, Mo. 33-31 against V-Town. Impressive considering V-Town's athleticism, right?
Yes.
32-28 against the False Kings Pincellos. That's again an impressive win because while they're False Kings, the Pincellos were at the top of the standings.
Yep.
And then they beat the Rainmakers, who we expected to be a tough out every week, and another team that was at the top of the standings. Early in the season, in my article, I was critical of Bobby Spaghetti's play at quarterback. He's since been messaging me after every game telling me, like, because at first he messaged me, he's like, listen, Peeze, it wasn't my choice to play quarterback. And like, you and I know this. Playing quarterback in FPF, it's not a beer
easy.
league. It's tough. It's
very
really
tough.
hard league to play quarterback in. And so it's as impressive a turnaround in a single season as can be expected. The completion percentage still a little low for my taste. And for a little while, they got off to a 30-6 start, Mo. And they allowed Rainmakers to get back in the game, and they didn't score in the second half. But you know what? Chris Williams had a big game. 2 interceptions, 2 pick sixes.
And he's been a monster in the defensive side of the ball for Sobriety.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's cool to see. They're finding ways to get it done.
Yep.
The efficiency is just the thing that's got to be improved, and I think that's going to make them a concern for teams in the playoffs.
Yes, Eagle.
My big worry about this is those last 5 games were decided by less than a score in every single one of them, right? So
But you would have thought the way the season started, you would have thought they were blowouts, right? Like you would have thought that they're not going to be in those games given the quality of the opponents.
Well, the Pincello win was actually a 30-6 lead, or 32-6 lead, whatever it was. And they allowed Pincellos to come back in the game.
So basically,
And same thing as Rainmakers.
Rainmaker story back to back. Yeah,
exactly. So they jump out to fast leads or big leads, but they just can't hold on to that lead. And teams chip away at that. Right?
So you think that goes back to what Peeze was saying a few weeks ago about teams that don't have like a second half playbook, right? Like one team can make adjustment, the other one can't.
Well, and that's with him not being a quarterback, right? Like self-admitted not being a quarterback. That's what that is. That's exactly Eagle. You hit the nail on the head.
I'm just echoing what you said. So
Yeah, exactly. What I'm saying by saying you're right, Eagle, is actually me just saying I am right.
give yourself a nice pat on the back.
There
on
we
my
go.
behalf.
So-
that's my hand right there.
if the playoffs were to start today, they would actually play Pincellos in the 3 versus 6 matchup.
That'd be a good game.
Which would be a rematch of that, near collapse by
So,
Sobriety.
Pincellos are ranked where?
3 right now.
Oh, 2 weeks ago they were 1. I
they-
wonder what happened.
They do not have a game played this week. We'll talk about it now. Trailer Park Boys actually sent us a confirmed COVID case completely outside of FPF, so it just so happened. But our protocol says that game gets rescheduled to make sure that there's no contact or whatever it is. So that'll happen at a later date. So quick shout out to Trailer Park Boys for letting us know, following the process, and this is where we're at. So I just wanted to give everyone an update.
It's bound to happen, right? In a world that we live in, we're not pro athletes, right? We're not in the bubbles here.
And the thing is, they did it as responsibly as possible. They let us know literally as soon as they knew. They sent us the documentation, and we were able to handle the situation.
Game ball to Cellos for letting us know as soon as they could. All right, the current crop of quarterbacks in Division E. There are some who could definitely make the next move. Now, we know, hopefully, fingers crossed, if we have a maybe fall club, if not, then the winter season in 2022. Peeze, who do you think, and I have my names as well, who do you think can make that jump up to the next level of the FPF world?
So for a while, I was really critical of how FPF handled the quarterback cap. I felt as though a lot of the guys were just sort of grouped towards the middle, and some guys were hanging around in Division E, Division 6 for too long. I remember Michael Soleimani, after 2 seasons, threw like 96 touchdowns to 5 interceptions, and I was like, why did he get a second season in the lowest division, right? So I have to give credit to the FPF capologists, Eagle and Simon, although this year it's Eagle flying solo, so to speak.
More or less. Pimo had a little bit of input at the beginning of the season, but that's pretty much it.
He went on vacation afterwards.
So to speak.
I would say that I remember times where when you're the sort of the lower tier in a division, like when I started in Div 5, right?
Yeah.
I felt there was some games where I was like, oh my God, I am here and I'm playing against this quarterback. I'm not gonna have a chance. Since there was an adjustment made before, was it last winter season, Eagle?
What are you referring to now?
Where we shifted sort of the quarterbacks, where we allowed sort of like everyone to be sort of progressed, not artificially, but based on performance. We allowed sort of like a natural progression where like Div D, we saw some quarterbacks move up into Div C, and we cleaned up a lot of the stragglers in Div E, for example.
Yeah, I don't want to get into the specifics, but we definitely changed a little bit of the weighting.
Yeah, and so I think FPF's as competitive as it's ever been, and I like this crop of quarterbacks in Division E. I think if we have another season with all these quarterbacks back, I wouldn't be like, oh my God, that's ridiculous. Like we're just setting teams up to do to murder other teams. But to me, the guys that I see, I'll give you a couple of names too of guys later on that I think will make a jump up soon, but just aren't ready yet. But I think Jamal Roach, what I've seen out of him so far, I'm very, very, very impressed. I think he can make a jump immediately. Jeremy Ledoux as well. Just his knowledge of the game alone, I think, is impressive. Joel Hull, from a raw skills perspective, and given the fact that he plays for a team that I think could beat Division D teams now, as is, those three really, really strike me as guys that could make the jump immediately. Derek Kastner, believe it or not, I still think he's making a little too many mistakes to be successful in the next division.
He's another year of lower end.
Yeah, like one more season probably, and he's good to go. But I want to give a shout out to Michael Hayotis of Balls Deep. I saw him play early in the season. He's not ready to make a jump up yet because when I went from Div 5, from Div 6 to Div 5, I found it a bigger jump than when I went from Div 5 to Div 4. Right. So like I actually found that to be quite a significant change in competition.
I got one name for you, Sebastian Noel, Save the Turf Turtles.
I actually just haven't seen him play in person. That's why I didn't add him.
A few times. The thing is with him that he will need to improve on is his completion rate early on in games, because there was times where I score kept their team where he would be 0 for 6 out of the gate. Didn't really figure out the game as well. But now you're seeing the progression. They're 5-3, and he's improved, nicely in this situation. Where again, through 7 games, he's done fairly well on how he's averaged about 130 yards per game, give or take here. So I think he's got to watch out for if this team stays on for the winter next year. Probably a 6A or whatever we do for the breakdown divisions for winter. That he might be a 6 guy, but then next year, in 18 months from now, he can definitely play in 5.
Yeah, and he's got a 5-to-1 touchdown interception ratio.
Yeah,
I always say like to be borderline to at least have a 5-5 caliber team, quarterbacks need to keep a 3-to-1 touchdown interception ratio.
Right.
You want to be above 60% completions. He's at 57.3. He's not crazy far away. So I think you're right. I think, if not next season, the one after, we should see him take a step up.
I know V-Town right now is probably complaining, bro, are you serious, bro? You're not talking about our team here? Well, like.
I have a kind of a curveball question for you guys here. So you've been talking completion percentage a little bit. Do you think for Division E or lower divisions in general that's the most important QB stat to show progress in like either their playbook or their talent? Because normally when we talk about like quarterbacks, you want a lot of touchdowns, a lot of yards, no interceptions, etc. But I think
Eagle, I'm walking proof that yards don't mean anything.
But I was gonna say, but I think like if you're looking at this list of quarterbacks, right? Like we look at Jamal Roche right now, who has 31-5. We look at Jeremy Ledoux, who has 29-3. Does that just mean you have a guy running downfield on 40 bombs? You're getting them the ball essentially and getting lucky on a lot of them. I think that's where.
Well, but Jamal Roche has a 67% completion percentage.
But that's it though, right? So there's a story to be told in terms of if you're doing that in Div A, it's not a big deal, right? Like you can have a 40% completion, and if you're scoring 6 touchdowns a game, who cares? But I think when it gets to this level, if you're looking about teams that are almost a one-dimensional offense versus those that can actually march the field, have an actual playbook, what do you think is the most important stat to look at then?
So like the first thing I would look at is if I'm watching the game, it's actual like so. My criticism of Michael Hyotis, for example, isn't even something in the stats so much. It's just when I watched him play, some of the plays are not fully refined. There's concepts where guys end up in the same place, and the reads aren't entirely there. I don't know for certain that he gets to his third and fourth read very often. So that's more of me just watching him play and making that analysis while seeing him at the field. But I think that the two key stats in the lowest divisions, Eagle, to your credit, are the ones that we talked about, are the completion percentage and again touchdown and interception. Because if by this point in the season you have like we see Jeffrey Lefebvre with 17 interceptions so far this season, like that's way too many. That's way too many. If you're at 10, 11, 12 by this point, it's a touch high for where you want to be.
All right, so Eagle, you notified us about Balls Deep, and now for those in this division who don't know who #NR is, there's a documentary about this team, which essentially talks about the history of how they kind of went from high school to being a flag football team, greatest recreational sports team. So anyway, Balls Deep, are they the new #NR that are cocky, bravado, arrogance, and
show up with fans?
A lot of fans that show up to games.
Who should be in the stands.
And yes, should be in the stands, which we'll talk about momentarily here. And they bring out fans. And they've turned their season from what was going to be an 0-10 to now in the thick of the playoff race.
I think I'll add another adjective to that. They're also very athletic. I think that's the part that caught me off guard a little bit. I happened to catch them playing at the same time as me at Laval on Sunday night. And by the way, hi guys, but thanks for saying hi to me, because they're like, who are you? And I'm like, I'm Eagle. They're like, oh! So that was fun. But yeah,
Did
just
they
like
feed you, Eagle?
It reminded me of early No Regard. Like I still have this memory. I want to say it must have been like winter 2013, maybe 2012 or something, of playing in Brossard, walking off of our field after we played our game, and it was No Regard versus Checkmate, which was Peeze's team. And I remember watching this game at the beginning, and I'm like, oh, these guys are good type of thing. And I remember walking up the sideline, and I think it was like one of the Moses brothers I just kind of mentioned, you're going to have to take away this guy, pointing at Mike Carbone, essentially, like your main receiver at that point.
Yeah.
Like, he's going to be the big threat, take him away. They're like, oh, thanks. And I think that game ended up being like 14-12, No Regard or something. But
there was a safety that wasn't called that would have given us the game, but it doesn't matter.
So I remember that same feeling I had of like watching them and being like, okay, they have the energy, they have the passion, they have actual athletic skill. It's not polished yet, clearly. Like there's still work to be done on that front. But I get that same vibe, like the.
I see what you mean.
Yeah.
I would say the one difference is
you don't have sweatshirts.
They don't. On it. No, the one difference for me is that Alex Holloway, even back then, who obviously now is a top 5 quarterback in FPF of all of FPF, but at the time he obviously wasn't that yet. Yeah. But he had already had experience in the league where Michael Hyotis is new. The playbook was just a little bit more refined, a little bit better constructed. He had a clear idea of his game plan going into the game, and just a bit of a better executor. But I have no doubt Michael Hayot's to get there. He's to me Division E's Rookie of the Year.
So what type of playbook would you recommend to him then? Like, are you thinking he's more of like an intermediate stretch the field? Is it a flood system? Do you want like crossers? Do you want ISO routes? Like, what would you say based on the team
I
roster?
love his athleticism, and I like his ability to throw on the run. I would use a lot of ISO concepts in a different way than a lot of quarterbacks, because he can run and change the throwing window. So like where basically if the defense is static and has a guy covered, but then he can scramble a couple yards to his left or to his right to change the throwing window, I think that's deadly for them. And they have the athleticism, Eagle, that if they sort of have guys at different layers, and he's able to buy time, change the window, get the ball into his receiver's hands quickly. Those guys can take it upfield and do serious damage. And also, he can take off with his feet at any time. He's got 3 rushing touchdowns as well. I think it's 3, if not, or was it 5? 5. Sorry, my mistake. 5 touchdowns.
And one more thing for Balls Deep. Keep your fans on the stands, not on the sidelines, please.
Yeah, that's the one. Like we've praised you for your play, but also just don't be jerks.
Yeah, because in a COVID world,
yeah,
we need to be careful what's going on. This was no
well,
COVID.
in general, even if it wasn't COVID, we technically don't allow for spectators on the field because they're technically considered part of your bench, and therefore the bench can get penalties for anything they say. So we always say put them in the stands. Some fields actually would prevent non-players from not getting on the field at all, forcing you to go to the bleachers. So outdoor fields, obviously less regulated, COVID, outdoor type of stuff, blah, blah, blah. You're supposed to be in the actual grandstands themselves or off the field. So at least off the sidelines and on the bench is the smallest we can ask of you, depending on the venues, because sometimes they might not have bleachers.
Well, we play in Laval, so
yeah, Laval you actually have, so you can make that work.
All right, Division D. When we look at the current situation, the term is safe or man the panic stations, Peeze. Okay. Now, I'll throw teams at you, 10 words or less. Are they safe or man the panic stations type of thing here? So let's see how well you can.
Not a lot of words is not my strength. Right?
I know. That's why. Okay, here we go.
Very verbose.
Here we go. Team number 1, Stoics at 4-3. They're in the 6th hole in their division, and if the playoffs were to start today, they would be in.
Well, okay. So first of all, any team that's got more than 3.
That's 10 words.
Okay, wait. This is a preface. This is gonna stand for this whole segment. Any team with 3 wins doesn't have any reason to panic because they pretty much clinched a playoff spot.
But would you be worried about where they're positioning because of playoff matchups?
No, not really, because we don't even know what the playoff format's going to be yet.
Do that again. Any team with 3 wins shouldn't panic because they're in.
Yeah.
Okay, we're good. 10 words.
But that wasn't my analysis. So Stoics, my analysis is turning it around. What's the panic or manic?
Safe for panic.
Safe.
That's 4 words. You got 6 more if you want. If you want them. You can't bank them, though.
I like hot dogs. Not tonight, Eagle.
All right.
That's 6
Kiss
words.
my end zone. They are 2-4-1. They're in the 10th hole right now at 5 points. They are 3 points above the drop zone where ball in 60s laying weight.
Panic. Roster instability. Defensive woes.
You got 5 more.
Alexi has a wonderful smile.
All right. Trap Stars in the 4 hole at 5-2. They are in comfortable prime position. They are in the top 4 of their conference. Safe or panic in terms of where they're heading?
Safe. They may be false kings.
5 more.
Schedule has been light.
1 more.
Yes.
Mean Girls at 2-4. They're in the 11th hole, and this, an FYI, their game against Glow Gang was delayed and will be rescheduled because of lightning. That happened.
Same thing with the Melons Orioles game, I think.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah.
That will be rescheduled for week 11. So they're going to continue on in the second half. They were up 12-0 at that moment. So Mean Girls, we will exclude that game, Peeze, at 2-4 in the 11th hole. Safe or panic?
Panic. Need one more win Not enough wins yet for them safe.
Vultures at 7-1. They are at 14 points in the 2-hole. Safe or panic?
Safe. Haven't lost since week 1.
5 more.
5 more. Ben McMahon, really shifty guy.
Voodoo. They're in the 8th hole at 3-4-1. They have played 8 games, which is actually one of 3 teams in this conference side of the bracket that has played the most games so far. So at 3-4-1 at 7 points, they are 5 points above Loyola for the drop zone. Think about it from this perspective. Safe or panic of where they're headed off to in the playoffs?
Panic. Sometimes they're dominant. This is not one of those seasons.
Clinkers at 2-5. They're in the 11th hole right now at 4 points, 2 above Loyola and Peeze and Negronis. So are they safe or panic?
Panic. Team is okay. Missing one more piece to make legit.
Tuts and parlays in the 7th seed at 4-3. Safe or panic?
Safe. Gritty team that competes each week and also likes meatballs.
Arush at 6-1 in the 1st seed at 12 points. 3-way tie for the number 1, 2, and 3 seeds in this division. Safe or panic? Currently where they are.
Safe. Great win. Where the hell is the food supposed to bring? I miscounted.
The leftovers.
Supposed to bring.
The leftovers at 2-6. They are 2 points above the drop zone, which is Loyola in the 13th hole. Safe or panic?
Panic. Have pardon my swag. And Los Siete Amigos.
Oh, you should have gone with the
On schedule.
Should have gone PMS and LSA.
Good. I'm good. It was 10 words.
Oh, that was close.
It was 10 words. They're all close.
He's
That's
actually
the
doing
point.
quite good
Yeah,
at
he's
this.
doing very well for himself. All right.
It's almost like I'm a writer.
Two more to go. Blackouts at 5-3. Now, think about it right now. Safe or panic. They were at top of the pinnacle for quite a while. They played the most games in this conference at 5-3. Safe or panic?
Safe. Probably have the most athletic roster in this summer's
D.
D.
Season, maybe.
D. In
Division.
this summer's D.
All right, last one for you.
I could have
please.
just gone in Div D.
LBB 2-4-1. Safe or panic? They are in the 10th hole, 3 points above the drop zone.
Thank you for buying time while my internet lagged. I really appreciate that. I'm going to say safe. 3-1-1. Oh, sorry, 2-1-1. Since Minton Tat took over QB.
All right.
Some of these aren't sentences, but it's okay.
It makes sense. Okay, so
That was actually quite fantastic. I'm going to give you a nice little applause here.
I am bowing for the audio audience.
there you go.
There's no sound in a bow, however.
Arush, New Guys, PMS are in the penthouse, and the next wave we have Blackouts, LSA, Tuts and Parlays, top season. Blackouts, LSA, Tuts and Parlays, and top season. Those 4 teams. Does any of these teams pose a threat to the top 3 of this division?
Sorry, which one's top season? Tuts and Parlay?
Blackouts, LSA.
Blackouts, absolutely. Blackouts are the most athletic team in the division.
But their quarterback plays a little suspect of late. They have been relying on their defense to make
How have
plays.
they dropped 3 games is my question then.
They've had issues with rosters, like injuries and guys not being there, and they have not played as well as they did in the first half of the season.
Yeah. The lost part of my swag is concerning because that's the kind of team that would give Brad Evans a hard time, right? Like they're very aggressive. They're tough in the flats. But Julien Lachance completing 8 passes and throwing 3 interceptions is rough. That's a rough game. I'm starting to worry a little bit, but when you see this roster, they had everyone there, Mo.
Yeah.
They had Julien throwing at quarterback. They had both. They had both Kazakas. Yeah, they had both Kazakas there. Ryan Vance that was there. Alex DeLille was there. Chris Sione. I don't understand. What do you think is the issue right now? Like, given that I know they've had roster instability, but that wasn't the case in this game. And it's not losing a part of my swag; it's getting blown out the way they did, 31-6.
Well, we can go back to their game against Voodoo on August 1st. I scorecapped that game in Lachine. They didn't have a full roster. They had, I think, like 3 pick sixes to win that game, and they won by 17 points. That was the first sign for me of cracks showing up, on the street for where they occupy. And I think from that point onwards, you saw it happen. They lost to Rouge by 6. PMS blew them out of the water. Now they have top season coming up in Loyola to finish off the year. They can probably split those 2 games. But if you go into the playoffs at, say, 6-4, if that's the case to be, you're a middle of the pack team, and you're not going to have a good draw in theory about who you can
Maybe,
face.
because again, we don't know.
We don't know what the plan is.
Yeah.
Still planning.
We're doing.
So, Eagle, let me ask you a question I probably should ask off camera. Do we have the goddamn meeting set?
Yes.
When is it?
I'm not gonna say it.
Okay.
But you know what?
Can you text it to me?
Should we
Yes.
not hold okay, again, people are curious about the playoff format, which will be revealed sooner than later, but should we not hold off until the last week so we don't what was been discussed?
It won't whatever we choose, tanking won't be possible.
Yeah. So here's kind of what Division D teams should expect. The games for Division D playoffs are already scheduled. So if you go to the website, you're going to see the playoff dates that are already listed, okay?
Yeah, you need to show that on screen here, Eagles.
Yeah, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go back to the main site and we can go through that essentially. Like all the stuff is already available in terms of when the games are going to be. So if you're looking to plan out your schedule and have that ready to go, if ever this were to load, there we go. So we already have the dates for them. So Division D, we're looking at September 9th, which is the Thursday for the divisional round.
Who decided to put this during NFL opening night of Tampa Cowboys?
Welcome to fall. We're delayed by a month. Usually we finish before
I don't know if you know this, Mo. There was a global pandemic that
I
changed
had
all
no idea
sports
what was going on
schedules.
the last 18 months. I just thought we had a home vacation. That's what we had.
By the way, Mo,
Look,
thank you so much for everything you've done. We really appreciate it.
Like normally we end up with the schedule ending beginning of August.
That's
We're
right,
off
yeah.
by about 30 to 60 days easy, right?
No,
like
for
somewhere
sure,
in that range.
absolutely.
So it is what it is. So yeah. So your first game, if you're making Division D playoffs, is September 9th. Whether you're Division D1 or D2 after we split, doesn't really change anything. Your game is on September 9th. Same thing when you get to the quarterfinals, your game is September 12th. Same thing when you get to the semifinals, September 19th. And same thing if you get to the finals, it's September 26th. So the schedule does not change at all. The only difference is which grouping are you in and who are you playing, of which, like I said, we're keeping this secret until the end of the season so people can't manipulate their schedule accordingly.
Also because we're super disorganized and can't hold a meeting.
Yeah.
That's the real
But
reason.
more so because it's strategic.
Or
Let's pretend.
book guests for this show when we give 24 hours
I
of
did
advance
book you
notice.
a guest. I booked a Division E.
Oh,
analyst.
that's right. Yeah, how long did this take? 2-3 weeks for the staff?
And also, like, you got me for that segment where I couldn't prepare and had to, on the spot, come up with exactly 10 words to describe a team.
Speaking of couldn't prepare, something to co-ed. Power Rangers, Hammer, third down for what? They've won 2 in a row against third down for what? They're in first place. Are they now the favorites to win this game? Now, let's put a
have to
little
be.
FYI in this. The Murphy boys did not play in the loss to Power Rangers in Brossard on Monday, but nonetheless, though, they did not show up.
That's 2 in a row they drop, right?
Yeah, but they didn't show up.
2 Power Rangers.
I scorecapped that game. Unfortunately, and there was an unfortunate accident with one of the players from third down for what? We hope he's okay.
Who is it?
It was a sub who, unfortunately, his knee didn't survive the shock, and hopefully he's all right. But the point is this. They did not show up yesterday, a third down for what? Power Rangers were essentially toying with these guys all through the football game.
Yeah. It's rough. I didn't expect that. I thought they'd split the season series, and I thought I would give the slight edge in the playoffs to third down for what. But given the fact that it's pretty clear the Murphy boys likely will not be around for much of the season,
They said they will, but again,
will?
with tackle commitments and practices, I don't know how much they're allowed to
the
go.
willingness might be there. The realistic chance is though that they may miss games, or may not be themselves from just having to do all that.
A long
right?
day of practice.
So at this point, you got to give Power Rangers the edge. It's crazy because third down for what defensively has been about the same as Power Rangers. And the point, they've also scored by far the most points in all of co-ed, right? So it's so strange to see them struggle in back-to-back weeks, given that, to me, heading into the series, they had the slight edge, and I thought in the playoffs they'd have that edge as well. Now I don't think that's the case. I think Power Rangers are the front runners.
I think there's a bit of shakiness now to third down for what if they're not full power, and brings up the next question, because Party Mix now they will play third down for what next week. In fact, third down for what, I believe their schedule wraps up very soon. They have a doubleheader, I believe. They have a bye week coming up and 2 games to wrap up the year. So third down for what, we'll play Party Mix in 2 weeks here. Party Mix has to win by 16-plus points for the tiebreaker. Peeze, could they do the unthinkable and maybe be the 2 seed in the playoffs come September?
So I don't think so, and here's why. I was actually at the Fighting Tigers Party Mix game this past Sunday. And it was 20-18. They beat the Fighting Tigers. But Fighting Tigers were 5 players. And they kept it close. They asked my boys to sub. I was throwing. I had to get ready to play our game. So I told my guys, like, hey, guys, anybody who wants to go play. A lot of my players are new to FPF. Kind of intimidated by playing with people they didn't know, kind of intimidated by playing co-ed. So unfortunately, they couldn't bail them out. Weren't comfortable doing it. So it was a rough night. But Fighting Tigers able to keep it close. Like that worries me a little bit for Party Mix. And François Delorier made some great throws in this game, but there just seemed to be a little bit of a lull in the second half. Part of it was Fighting Tigers, especially early second half, really trying to slow the game down. But then, they should have. Party Mix should have scored on every drive.
So can they slay third down for what when they meet up in 2 weeks?
No, not like they were good, but to me that there's a clear division in talent. If that's gonna be the kind of performance they put out there, I do want to shout out Mary-Lou Côté-Noël. She had just great game overall.
Yeah.
Caught all of her targets. Caught a ball, on the, I think, 1 or 2 yard line going to the ground. And I believe, if I'm remembering correctly, I was warming up, so I was sort of paying attention now and again. I believe it was Mary-Lou Côté-Noël who caught a beautiful ball from François Delorier, but she had to extend a little bit, caught it at the back of the end zone and convert.
Yeah.
Really impressed with her athleticism, as I always am whenever I see her play. And every time I see her play, I'm reminded by why I'm always impressed by her play.
Right. So I watched a bit of this game here, and La Secte unfortunately lost 40-36. To Yin and Yang. Yin and Yang actually was down in this game at one point. Could this be a sign of things now for the positive angle for La Secte? Maybe they're starting to turn the corner, in which those close games were game blown out at first, but now they're losing that close game, that now they can win the close games and move up the ladder.
So, Mo, you've watched La Secte before, right? The problem has always been their quarterback play. They've never really seemed to have a quarterback that can actually drive the field. And I'm looking at the stat line here. Did they do that this game, or did they just throw a bunch of deep balls and get lucky in a few of them?
They from what I saw, because I was scorekeeping my field, they were next to me, but they just made big plays. They had a pick 6 in the game. They looked like a better football team that kind of figured things out. Unfortunately, this kind of closed it out in the matchup against Yin and Yang, and it makes me wonder about Yin and Yang and how they are going towards the playoffs. But I think, Peeze, that La Secte could build on this and maybe become more competitive if they stick around here for the future seasons coming up for FPF.
Well, and they replaced Alison Francillon with Raphaël Beauchamp at quarterback, but Francillon had a huge game with 111 yards on 6 catches. Maybe this is a better deployment of their talent.
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, like I saw that score, and they scored more than half of their season total of points in this one game.
Right.
Against a very competent team in Yin and Yang. I know they haven't been, they've kind of had some struggles this season, but they're still a competent FPF team.
Sure.
La Secte is at that point where, we say all the time, teams take a little bit of time if they're from outside of FPF to learn the game. That's where they are. And they're reaching that point where, like, they're starting to get it. It's really cool to see.
All right, Division C, we look at Jeff Rosenblatt. He's been signed on by Shit to be their quarterback for the duration of the season. I look at it from this perspective. Could he be the reason why Shit wins the Div C title? Because they look like they've not lost a step with him at quarterback, and they do play infantry their next game. And so, Peeze, the first question is, can they
play Silent Ticklers next game?
Yeah. Oh, the Silent Ticklers, and they have infantry coming up.
Yeah.
So can he do the unthinkable and turn their fortunes around and lead them to a deep playoff run and perhaps beat infantry and give them the first loss?
So I'm going to ask you a question, Mo. Who would you rather have as quarterback, Jeff Rosenblatt or Jake Applebaum?
Jeff Rosenblatt.
Yeah, I like nothing against Jake. Jake's really good, and he's improving as time goes, but Jeff Rosenblatt's a guy who he's improved at a rate that we thought to be unthinkable, right? Like we saw him get really good really fast, right? And so I like what Rose has done. He
studied other quarterbacks, though. That's what he did.
Sorry?
He studied other quarterbacks.
Yeah.
That's what he did.
But he had the ability to execute it, right? Because a lot of guys can study the game as much as they want, but executing is another issue. There's nothing wrong with this roster.
Noah Groper's a really good receiver.
Noah Groper is. Jacob Boydman, always underused on every team he's in. Jordan McKinnis, okay, he's only a sub. Matt Lapage, though, so they have pieces. Greg Castile, too, is another guy, underrated FPF player. My thing is that I still think this team is a notch under the top teams. But Jeff Rosenblatt puts them in a position, like we saw with B-Ballers, where he can actually keep them in the game enough that if things break, they can break their way, right? The big test, I think Silent Ticklers, by the way, despite early troubles, like that's a team that's improved. I know they took a loss this week, but they've improved, and they prior to this past week had won 3 straight games, right? So that's going to be a challenge. And the next game against Infantry is going to be a challenge. That'll give us a real idea of how big the addition of Rosenblatt is in real terms to this team.
Well, here's the thing, right? If you were to prorate his stats compared to Jake Applebaum, he would actually have 50 touchdowns as he played a full season with.
But it's a small sample size, and he just played the worst team in the division.
No, for sure. But I'm saying that from the perspective that if what he's done and seeing how he utilized Noah Groper, who was near perfect 2 weeks ago in Brossard, and how he was catching the football. They just look a lot more different because he's utilizing all of his receivers. Not going to deep balls often, but he's using the short game well. And look, he knows his go-to targets at key moments, whether it's Lepage, Groper, Adam Rockman included in that whole equation. So I think they do have the horsepower, and they do play infantry in 2 weeks. They got Silent Ticklers coming up on Monday Night Football. So to take out Ticklers, I think they got that momentum that maybe they can pull the rug underneath.
But so I agree that with Rosenblatt at quarterback, they have a chance to upset one of these teams, right? But let's say they would end up in a situation where they'd have to run through at least 2 of 3 of B-Ballers, Blessed, and Infantry. Now B-Ballers have already seen them. Infantry will have already seen them.
They beat B-Ballers as well. So
I understand, but they beat by a point, and now B-Ballers have seen Rosenblatt, right?
Yeah.
So, do you think they are good enough as constituted to at least beat 2 of those 3 teams, if not all 3 in the playoffs?
Yeah, because guys, you guys know very well, right? In FPF playoffs, it's not your traditional pro sports where this team is going to make it to the playoffs, make it to the finals, right? Make a deep run.
I think we knew from the beginning of the season that at least one of these 3 teams would be at the finals.
You would hope so. You would pray for the viewership purposes. We want to have sexy teams, not lethargic teams. But the point is this. That you get on a run, you can knock out these teams. We've seen lower division.
You can knock out a team.
Yeah,
you're not going to knock out 3.
You never know.
I do know they're not going to knock out 3. In fact, Eagle, make sure you mark this, cut this up when they knock out all 3. Please use it to make fun of me. But as I'm going to stand by it, I don't think they can beat all 3 of those teams. There's a difference between those three teams, the cream rises to the top, right? That's what we've seen all season. The top three teams are the three teams we knew from day one were the best teams in the division, bar none.
Well, the thing is, if they finish in the top 4 and they're 1, 2, 3, they would only play 2 out of 3. If they
Maybe, but
bring us along here. So
they won't have to play each other before having to play shit, right? So if all three of those teams keep winning,
well, they might be constipated playing shit.
what?
They might be constipated.
They might.
Being playing
You
shit.
gotta get that shit out.
Exactly. Take some water to help. All right. We look at Centaur. Right? They take out Top Sauce. They are now back in the playoff picture for where they're positioning right now at number 9 at 2-4-1. Are you comfortable that they are going to the playoffs with their win over Top Sauce, thus giving them the tiebreaker over their rivals from the West Island?
It helps. And what's also helping is that I think Balls Deep will be eliminated this week. I think Mangoose and EZW haven't shown me anything that would indicate that Les Centaures or Top Sauce are in any position to lose their playoff seeding at this point.
And Mangoose will not have Thomas Couture playing this week because he had 3 OCs last week.
I wonder what their record without Thomas Couture is, by the way, because he's such a disruptive player.
Well, they're 1-6 this year, so I would imagine.
No, but I mean in general, like in their history, because it's also their first time playing this division, right?
Right.
I expected they would struggle, which they have.
Right. I think Centaur now are. I would put them in the safe position of where they're going to be at 2-4-1 at 5 points. I just think Top Sauce has lost a little bit of the curiosity of how they were, because you look at Patrick Jazzon, he's trying his best, but the thing is he's not reading the field well enough. He's always going to Darnell Riley, and he's got to get the ball to other guys who are open.
It's a rough spot for Pat Jazzon.
It is. It's not the most. It's not the most desirable spot.
He is a competitor. He's a guy who understands the game as well as anyone. But the speed of the game in Division C is quick.
It is.
And he's never thrown in this division before. And this was a team that was supposed to be one of the top teams in the division. And now he has all the expectations of having this really good roster. And now has to deal with succeeding under those expectations in a division he's never quarterbacked before. So I love him as a player. I think he's a great dude as a human being in general. But unfortunately, those things are not going to help him. Not going to help him succeed, right? And the big game is this week. If they beat Mangoose, that pretty much locks them up and locks Mangoose out of the playoffs.
Yep, pretty much.
Yeah. Otherwise, they'll have to get through Blue Dreamers and or Silent Ticklers, which I don't think is happening.
Who has the best offense, Blessed, Infantry, or B-Ballers? Like, if you look at it right now, the 3 best offensive points for, who has the best offense?
I think Infantry's defense inflates how good their offense looks, right? They're always in good position.
Yeah.
Right? And I haven't checked to see if they have a lot of defensive scorers. Maybe Eagle can find that while we're discussing this. But I know that they're creating a lot of turnover on downs, and it puts them in a great position. I love Stephen Harper's offense. I love his ability to read. I love the weapons he has. He had some guys missing sort of in the middle part of the season, which should be coming back. Kevin Smoot has been injured. Will Power, Jesus Camp. But like when they're all there, Isaiah Lard, Marvin Steinberg, Will Power, Svedna, Kevin Smuda, like who do you stop?
According to the current stats, the Infantry have 3 pick sixes.
Okay.
21 interceptions though.
Probably about the same for Blessed.
Yeah,
to
Blessed
be honest,
has
Crazy Gordon Mall
Blessed
had
has 4 with 19 interceptions.
Svedna has a bunch of them, I think.
Well, pick 6s though. Crazy Gordon Mall got 2 in that one game.
Yeah, that's right, against Centaurs.
Yeah, when Jordan Rossi kept thinking that hook was open.
Although
thinking
admittedly,
that
the Infantry have only allowed less than 1,200 yards.
Yeah, but that's what I mean. Like they're in better position to score more frequently. So I think to me, what's really impressive about Infantry, and we're splitting hairs. These are the 3 best offenses in the division. They're probably the 3 best defenses in the division. But to me, Infantry's defense is so overwhelming.
Right.
So like they're just always putting their offense in a position to succeed, that's the complementary game, right? That's what you want to have. Sean Submergent, by the way, sneaky, got up there with 16 sacks.
Yeah.
and to get this many sacks in a division as high as Division C, it's a lot of coverage sacks.
Right.
So
So those are the three best teams. We'll see if those 2 of the 3 will be in the finals when it's all said and done on September 26th or 27th for the game here, Eagle.
Yes.
Your shit take was a shit take. Just so you know.
Yeah, I'm constipated right now about that. What day is that, Eagle?
If the 26th is a Sunday
Sunday
it's
night.
the 27th.
Do we have
Hold
the
on,
time set for the finals or no? Like to give teams
They're already all set.
So what time is that final? So we have to give teams an idea because it is.
It's scheduled when it's scheduled.
I think I'll be able to be there for both days, Eagle, as it turns out.
Yay! We have a broadcast team.
Division A, Division B, KGP champs. They're starting to turn it around here.
They always do. It's so frustrating.
Look, they won 3 in a row.
Yeah.
Could they be the ones that challenge Urgence Medic?
No.
All right.
Next question.
Perfect. That's all I need to know. But when you look at their chances, though, they look like a better team now compared to where they were when they got blasted by Contraband.
Yes. Absolutely. Well, Contraband's a Division 1 team.
Absolutely.
KGP. The only team I think that even has a chance against a lot of these Division 1 teams on a game in, game out basis is Urgence Medic. To KGP's defense, they lost to Urgence Medic, but it was the first game of the season. I always say we tend to overreact to those games because some teams are rustier than others. Some teams it takes a while to get their season together. And KGP is the team probably in FPF history that's the most guilty of taking a couple of weeks to look like themselves, right?
It's their training camp the first 2 weeks. Get themselves back in FPF shape.
And Phil Cutler he always seems to give his team a chance, right?
Yeah.
And we're seeing them turn it around. He wasn't there this week. It was Liam Mahoney throwing. So, competent replacement. And the team itself, like I said, it's solid. It's okay. But it's going to go as far as the magical Cutler games go. We'll take him, basically.
Right.
So, in this case, it wasn't him, but we've also seen him be better since that Contraband game.
When you look at the Division B standings right now, a lot of teams are below 500. Are you disappointed by the current win-loss records for some of these teams? Because we thought maybe it'd be a lot more competitive of how...
Don't say we. I didn't think it.
I think it would have been. I know there's a crossover games, but I thought
you thought there was a team that was even 80% as good as yours.
So I was going to say, Mo, when you look at these standings, knowing full well most of these teams have played 1, if not 2 games against Division A teams.
Well, that's it.
You think these standings are showing a not competitiveness in Division B? Because I see this as they're actually very close to each other.
Yeah. It's exactly what I thought would be, is that we have essentially a Division A team competing in Division B in Urgence Medic. And then we have basically a really tight divisional race for competing for second place, basically.
But the fact that we have some of these teams here at 2 and 6, like for example, like here for the Beers at 2 and 5, they're a good roster.
Mm-hmm.
They're not a bad roster. I thought they would have been at least at this point 4 and 3, not 2 and 5.
I mean, but so the thing is, again, take for granted that the Division B teams not named Urgence Medic will likely lose.
Well, admittedly, BYOB has only played 1 Division A team, right? Because look at their divisional record; they're 1 and 5 in 7 games. Versus
BYOB. To me, BYOB is the one that's more disappointing than here for the Beers.
Did we get that request from Stephen Osmond to change his stat, Eagle?
Probably. I don't know. Maybe.
Yes. Let's just say one of his teammates wasn't happy that they came up to me with the request 20 minutes after they lost.
Sure.
But yeah, so you say that, but that very good roster got smacked by the team that I thought was going to run away with the division, because this was the most predictable thing of all time.
And BYOB's one of 2 wins have come against Chernobyl.
I don't know why we haven't set up illicit gambling on FPF, because there would have been a good chance here to make some money on Urgence Medic winning this division, because it was the most obvious thing that was ever going to happen.
So should we put their name on the trophy banner now?
Yeah.
All right,
start etching.
Like to do it for the Masters, right? When you start seeing, and there goes the name of so-and-so as we arrive at the 18th hole. And we're not even at the 18th hole, and they're going to win the trophy right now. Yeah. Division A.
They're winning at the top of the back nine.
They definitely are. So Contraband beat All-Stars. It was a fun game. Over 600-plus passing yards from Kevin Wyeth and Della Lazzara. Safe to say now that Contraband will be the 2 seed, given that one game less played than everyone else. We know Joe Mayo is the best quarterback right now. Could we put Della Lazzara over Kevin Wyeth in the current pantheon of quarterbacks?
So I got a message from Kevin Wyeth this week.
Oh no.
Yeah. Well, Kev's a good dude,
Of
and
course he is. He's a great guy.
He was just like, Peeze, I'm not hurt anymore. You gotta stop picking. I was like, well, look, Kirak told me you're hurt. He's like, you gotta stop picking against us. Contraband won that game, but you know what? Wyeth starting to look like old Wyeth again. I played with.
I don't know. He had some bad. He had a bad INT on the first drive.
Yeah, that's true.
He didn't read the play, and he got picked off by Tam Billy Death. He got picked off by Tam, I think, twice in that loss. And I mean, look, it happens. You're gonna throw INTs. We're all human, but I just think Lazzara, and again, I think Dan's taking a big stride this year. He went serve for serve with Wyeth in that win, and he came up big when it mattered most.
Some of the highlights on our Instagram page from earlier today, like there was one which is like an out route to one of the Pinot brothers. I don't remember which one. That ball is in the perfect spot. Like great spiral, great speed on a line, exactly where it needs to be. Outside defender not there. Lazzara looks really good this year.
I was on the Lazzara bandwagon from when he was in Division 5.
Yeah,
dodging divisions in Division 5.
Space Parts, right? Or was
it
was C Parts?
Sea Assassin.
Sea Assassin. I still remember playing them out the Division 5, and I'm rushing him that game, and they had Zach Jonio on the team at that point in time. And pretty much that. It was just 40 bomb ball, exactly, back shoulder, perfect position. I'm rushing him, so I get to Lazzara. I turn to look at the ball, and I go, nice ball. And he goes, I know, eh?
So me, bro, serious.
I don't like doing the ranking 1, 2, 3 because to me it's irrelevant. It's splitting hairs. Like they are the top tier quarterbacks in FPF. They are. It's them three. It's Joe Maher, it's Kevin Wyeth, and Dan Lazzara in any order you want, and then a huge fall off.
So
it's like in fantasy, right? Like the top 3 running backs are all essentially the same that you're going to draft, right? Like it's the same thing as here. These guys are all ostensibly the top tier, and then you can choose whoever you want as your number one. It doesn't matter. They're all the best quarterbacks in FPL.
And FYI, Lazzara's played 1 game. He's played 7 games in total.
Mm-hmm.
Joe Mayo's played 9. Kevin Wyeth's played 8. So he could win the passing yard crown at the clip he's going at when it's all said and done.
I have breaking news, by the way, on this. So this is going to be a half plug for our social media. So make sure you're following us on Instagram so you can check out all the stories and posts and everything, including clips of this show. We had posted a question earlier today, which said, today being Tuesday. So by the time you're listening to this, it's probably already over the poll. But anyway, we said, which quarterback do you want going into the 2021 playoffs if you had to pick between Lazzara and Wyeth? And right now, as of the time of this recording, it's 52-48 in favor of Lazzara.
Did he stack the ballot box?
He did not.
By the way, Lazzara is 19 touchdowns away from 700 in his career. Well, I think Wyeth has like 5,000, so he's not far.
Yeah, but he's just been playing longer.
Non-stop, yeah. It's like non-stop going here.
It's not the same. Like you have to look at a per season average or whatever.
Exactly. All right, it is now time for
Games of the Week. Again, follow us on social media. It's fun. Don't forget to like and subscribe on YouTube or follow us on Spotify.
My God, with the CSS, he had 61 touchdowns in
it wasn't even, it wasn't even
2016.
All right, you guys ready?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We're going to go backwards this time. So starting with co-ed, we have Fantastic 9 versus La Secte.
Fantastic.
Fighting Tigers, Sriracha Hot Chili Sauce.
Tigers.
Give me Sriracha.
Les Semi-Croquants, Yin and Yang.
Semi-C's.
Let me see.
And Party Mix versus Power Rangers.
Power Rangers.
Division E, Oreos versus Les Chevaliers du Rohan.
Oreos.
Melons, Oscars Hockey School.
Oscars.
Give me
3
melons.
wins, brother.
Give me melons.
Ravens, Les Mythiques.
Ravens.
Pincellos, Suicide Squad.
Pinchellos.
Suicide Squad.
Brewers, Balls Deep.
Balls deep.
The poorly written Balls Deep.
That'll be 5 in a row.
They
Menace to
didn't
Sobriety.
make the schedule.
Menace to Sobriety versus Trailer Park Boys. I think this game is going to go on, but if it gets rescheduled, we'll repick it in future weeks.
I'll take Sobriety.
Me as well.
Quantrium FFC, Blast from the Past.
Quantrim.
I go Blast from the Past.
Dilly Dilly V-Town.
Dilly Dilly.
Dilly Dilly. By the way, do you see Iggy Magnus's pass catch ratio?
Is it good?
Check it out.
No. Green means
Just
go.
tell us what it is.
I gotta find out. He wasn't happy with it.
Rainmakers.
Sorry?
Green means go. Rainmakers. good game.
GMG.
I'll go with Rainmakers.
The Bad Batch save the Turftles.
Ooh boy, Turf Tail's my favorite.
I have to pick the Bad Badge though
Yes,
because
you
they're
do,
the
my
team.
Turf Tail's my friend.
We're giving ourselves losses every week. You know that, right?
I'm at 3 wins with my
That's
boys.
0 with Bad Badge.
Division D. Mean Girls, Sparrows Legion.
Mean Girls.
Spares Legion.
Tuts and Parlays versus Loyola.
Tuts.
Tuts.
PDs and Negronis, Arush.
Arush.
Roosh.
Glow Gang, Tough Lungs.
Tough Lungs.
Glow Gang.
Fighting Illini, Los Siete Amigos.
LSA.
I'm gonna go Flighting and Line.
Ball in 60s, Kiss My End Zone.
Kiss Man Zone.
Ball in 60s.
Johnny Fireball, Trap Stars.
Trap Stars.
Trap Stars.
The Stoics, Bruins.
Bruins.
You know,
Bruins are
I
good.
think the Stokes are due. I think they can definitely go with his victory here, but I'm going with the Bruins.
Bruins are good, man.
Clinkers, Voodoo.
Clinkers.
Clinkers.
They're playing good ball of late, man.
Hey, Marc Andre's back.
By the way, Marc-Andre Delaunay, first ever career rushing touchdown.
I heard.
Vulture-
He immediately texted me.
Yeah.
Vultures, Lockdown.
Sorry, Eagle. Vultures
I go
by a
Vultures,
lot.
brother.
Hot Sauce Sports, Replacements.
Sorry,
Hot
Nim.
sauce.
I'm sending you home with a 50-point loss. Get out of here. Go to Florida. I never want to see you again.
Hot sauce.
Les Bleu Branleurs, The New Guys.
You guys.
You guys.
And Blackouts, Top Season.
I'm going to go Blackouts, but I don't understand what's going on.
I'm going Blackouts as well, but we'll
Division
It's
C.
not comfortable, though, right?
see. No.
Mangoose, Top Sauce.
Top sauce.
Loser is
Loser's
out. I go top sauce.
Actually, it's not losers out because Top Sauce can still technically
Yeah,
make
they
it, but
could.
they probably would be out if they don't win.
I have to play the music again, so you gotta go
Yeah,
fast.
we gotta go faster.
Blue Dreamers, Blessed.
Ooh, blessed.
Blessed.
Balls Deep, Les Gros Coq.
Go cock.
Sheesh, Easy W.
Sheesh.
Shush.
B-Ballers, Les Centaures.
B-ballers.
B-ballers.
Silent Ticklers versus the South Harmon Institute
Shit.
of Technology.
Ticklers.
And doubleheader, the Infantry versus the South Harmon Institute of Technology.
All for 2 infantry.
Infantry.
And then we have Division A and B. We have KGP, BYOB.
KGP.
KGP.
Urgence
Medic, here for the beers.
UM.
UM.
Junkyard Dogs, Get Off Our D.
Give me Get Off RD.
Get off already.
Braves, Contraband.
This is a great game. I'm going Contraband.
I'm gonna go Braves.
And last game, Chernobyl 21 versus All Stars.
All-Stars.
Gonna stop picking against Wyeth. All stars.
There we go, guys. We are officially done.
All right. We are now approaching the final 2.
3, week 9, 10, and then 11.
Yes. I cannot emphasize how important is it for all the Catholics to see your rosters and make sure your guys have the correct number of games played, because we do have a glitch in our app. So I've been informing player teams, and listen, your guy was there last week, he's not there this week. Just send an email to the league to make sure, hey, the guy has the proper games accounted for.
And I'm going to say this very unprofessionally, don't fuck with us. We know when you're lying to us, okay? So if someone's missing a game played, we understand, we'll fix it. But if you think you're going to squeeze someone in by cheating them on their roster, it's not going to happen.
Because we've had
We
a
know
couple
there's a
glitches.
problem, but we know where the problem is. So we're not stupid.
No, we just want you guys to be honest and fair and making sure we know what's going on. All right, magic words, please.
I had one. I forgot it.
Good.
Travis Kelsey's hair.
Good night, Tim Tebow. And we finish with exactly 1 hour.
That's what I was gonna say. My final words were actually Anthony Cuomo's Italian defense makes me think I'm not a touchy enough Italian.
Good night, Tim Tebow.
I was gonna go with good night Afghanistan, but